Hey, everybody out there, guess what day it is? It's Wednesday happy hour, and this is If You Drink, brought to you by Vet Radio Syndicate. I'm your host, Heather Clark, and this week I have hanging out with me over here to my left, Marine veteran, country music star, Mr. Chris Turner. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Well, thank you, Miss Heather. It's good to see you. How you been? It's been a minute.
Oh, living life in Florida now, enjoying the sun. I know you guys got
There
snow up
you go.
there. So sorry, not.
It's a lot better than what we got going on. They're expecting like 3 to 4 inches of snow tonight, so it's yeah, it gets kind of cold. But for me being from South Carolina, it's really cool to be able to see four seasons because down there it's either winter or it's summertime and it's humid. So I mean, to be here and have four seasons, it's really cool to watch it come down.
Growing up in Wyoming, I do like the seasons, but I can say I don't miss the snow. I do like it at Christmas, but That's about it. I just talked to my daughter who still lives in Wyoming, and it's like 20 degrees below zero, and my granddaughter's coming in looking like a snowman with all this winter gear, and I'm just like hanging out here in flip-flops. And yeah, no thank you. You can have the snow, but weather's been like crazy this past week. Like it'll be like 75 degrees in Colorado, where it usually snows a ton. It snowed in Florida, actually, in the Panhandle this week.
Hell, girl, I mean, I think we got about an inch of snow on Tuesday. The day before, it was 79 degrees and raining. And then an inch, it snowed the very next day, and an inch of snow stuck to the ground. So, yeah, it's freaking wicked, man. I don't understand it. I guess maybe I should have went to school to be a meteorologist instead of being able to pick music. I have no idea, because that is one field that I am not familiar with at all.
Well, I can get into it a little bit. It does have to do with a little bit of climate change, and yes, everybody, I know it's a natural occurrence. It is, but our actions can speed up the process of a natural occurrence. And I've said this on other shows on VRS. We're supposed to be kind of like at a nice, comfortable jog, but all the shit that we're putting in the air is basically making it sprint ahead, and it actually disrupted the Arctic vortex a couple years ago. Do you remember, like in South Dakota and stuff, like cows were getting frozen in place? I mean, it was like insane, and then it would melt, and so then they had like flooding in the Dakotas and stuff like that, and that was because that vortex broke and some of that Arctic weather came down into the U.S. And we're seeing more hurricanes and tornadoes, and all that stuff overlaps. Earthquakes, all of it is crazy stuff. So I don't expect it to calm down anytime soon. In fact, the other day, wind was so strong here, I was getting a little bit freaked out.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, especially in Florida. I did some time down in Florida, and I used to work down there for quite a bit, And there's one thing you can always guarantee, probably around 1:30 or 2 o'clock, unless it's changed, there's always going to be a thunderstorm that rolls in. It doesn't matter where you're at, what side of I'd say not the Panhandle, but the actual, whatever you want to call it, right down there by Daytona or Tampa or Fort Myers or wherever it is, man. I mean, there's always, on either side of the state, there's a thunderstorm rolling in at like 2 or 2:30. And it doesn't just drizzle, man. I mean, it freaking downpours.
It pours.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first time I lived in Pensacola, we had 4 lightning rods in the house. And it would, like you said, every afternoon, it would thunder. Here in Tampa, it really hasn't rained that much this winter. It did rain when I first got here every single day.
You live in Tampa.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah. Like every day, all night for like 4 or 5 days in a row, and I thought I was going to lose my mind with all this rain, and then it just stopped. In November, it just stopped, and now it's like gorgeous, like 75 degrees, clear skies every day. So, but yeah, being here in the summer, no.
Don't rub it in.
I'm rubbing it in. But you guys had some crazy tornadoes too, right? Like, didn't you have tornado warnings, and then they had that tornado in Kentucky?
Yeah, I think it was about a week and a half ago, man, or 2 weeks ago. They had a really bad one that hit Bowling Green. But that morning, a lot of the guys in my band and my closest friends on my inner circle was texting me at like 3 o'clock in the morning, like, hey, man, you guys safe? You in the basement? There's been a tornado spotted in Goodlettsville. I was sound asleep, man. I didn't hear nothing. Because where I live in a valley, so a lot of people can say, you might get hit with a tornado even though you live in a valley. But I go back to the old adage, whenever you're in school, they tell you to stop on the side of the road and jump in a ditch, right? So
Yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking, I live in a ditch, so
Yeah.
why would I be worried
True.
about? Yeah, why
One
would I
might
be?
hit, but it would probably it wouldn't pick up as much speed and probably be
Yeah,
as destructive.
exactly. So but yeah, it's unfortunate, man, because a lot of people fail to remember last year, right before COVID hit. I think it was like March the 3rd or the 4th. There was tornadoes that came through and tore apart West and East Nashville, man, and just
Oh,
completely
that's true.
destroyed it. And then 2 weeks later, we get hit with the COVID lockdown, and
And you
everybody.
guys had a bomb too that took out like an entire street in
Yeah,
Nashville.
last Christmas we had a bomb, so everybody just forgot about the tornadoes that had hit because of the lockdown from COVID. So, there's a lot of fundraisers around here that went around, and people raised money for the tornado victims and stuff like that. And it was really cool to see how the city came together. And I actually moved to town 2 weeks after the 1,000-year flood in 2010, and to see the way the town and the city and everybody came together to help everybody out was really cool. I mean, that's one thing about where I live in Nashville, or just the mid-state in general. I mean, it's everybody helps everybody. I mean, it's really cool to watch it happen. So, but yeah. So to go back to, I didn't mean to sidebar, but to go back to it, yeah, there was a lot of damage done in Bowling Green, Kentucky, which is about 45 minutes up the road from me. And it's just really horrible that tornadoes can do that. They can just pop up and destroy. While they are very beautiful and magnificent when you can see them from afar, they are very, very deadly and very dangerous. And it wreaks havoc on anything.
Beautiful and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. But
So Gene says, I'll take the snow over them dang snakes every day. You know what? I've lived in Florida twice, and I've only seen one snake. And I walk out on a nature trail every single day. I've seen one racer snake since I've been here, and that's it. So they're not too bad. No pythons or anything like that. If I saw a python, I actually might pass out. But little snakes and stuff like that, I'm not too bad.
Pythons in Florida, man, I'd be more worried about damn gators than I had freaking snakes.
Yeah,
Every
there
time you
is
turn
gator
around,
signs everywhere.
there's always a gator yanking a kid in, and nobody knows what happened to their kid, man. Because I mean, they just pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah, that kind of freaked me out when I was first here because there was so much water because it was raining so much, and there were gator signs everywhere. And then someone went kayaking in a spring. I was gonna go kayaking in, and a gator like went right up to the kayak, and I was like, "Oh shit!" But something I actually told my daughter. I actually learned this as a random fact in a physiology class is that when gators and crocodiles open up their mouth, like any animal will not expend energy if they don't have to. Like it takes all their energy they store up basically to eat and to hunt. So if they don't need to expend that energy, they won't. And when crocodiles open up their mouth and then close back down, that takes a ton of energy for them. And it puts lactic acid into their blood and it burns. So they actually don't enjoy that. So my professor was like, yeah, just like throw them a big log. So they'll open up their mouth and they'll clamp down and then keep on moving. Not that I'm giving advice on how to deal with gators, but that I just remember that one random fact that in physiology class he told us about.
Better watch out, fella. She's a damn educated woman. Talking about lactic acid and alligators and clamping down on brush. It's like, oh my God. Oh yeah.
Well, I actually got to see some pretty cool wildlife. Actually, we went to I thought it was the bigger Florida aquarium in Tampa, but ended up being the Rescue Aquarium in Clearwater, where they actually had like the dolphin tail. Like they had dolphins with the prosthetic tails.
Oh, that's down in Clearwater. That's where that movie Winter was filmed at. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so even though we were expecting kind of a little bit bigger aquarium, it was kind of cool to see all these animals they had rescued. And I've seen lots and lots of dolphins, but I guess I had never seen a full-size male dolphin other than on the surface, and we got to go underneath on the tanks. Man, they had this one, I think his name was Nick. He was huge. Oh my God, he was just freaking enormous, but really, really beautiful.
Wow, that's crazy.
And actually, I went down to the Dolphin Research Center a couple of months ago in the Key West, and it was cool because you could walk up to the dolphins, and even though you couldn't go under the water, you could like sit there and click to them, and they would like click back and talk to you and stuff like that. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I didn't get a chance to tell you. I really appreciate you having me on the If You Drink podcast, man. It's been almost a year since you started it and debuted it in Nashville, Tennessee, and the fact that my song "If You Drink" is the featured song title for it, man, it means the world to me. And my buddy John Cirillo and Dan Reif Snyder and Sarah Spencer, they wrote that song, man, and it's become kind of an anthem for us out on the road. So just to be affiliated with it, man, I appreciate everything you guys are doing at VRS with it and what you've done to keep the song alive, man. I mean, it's a great tune and it sends out a great message. So thank you for that.
So yeah, while we're going into that song, if you guys have not heard the song "If You Drink," it's a song that Chris did where he did a music video with Randy Couture, and the video basically was a veteran with PTSD drinking by himself, and he ended up going out, jumping his Jeep, going for a ride, and he saw a VFW on the side of the road and pulled in, went in, sat down, with his brothers and had a drink. And the song is, "If you drink, come drink with us." And so we picked up on that song after Chris had put it out. And that's why we started this podcast, because every other week I don't have a guest and I just come and I hang out with you guys and talk to you guys. If you guys want to come on camera and have a drink with me, you can. But, Chris and I are both very actively involved in suicide prevention awareness through various ventures. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about actually the Freedom Tour.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up. So the whole thing with the Freedom Tour and Warriors on Mission, it came to fruition actually during that If You Drink video because, I wanted to film it at a VFW to where, when we did the video, it was vets helping vets, right? And that's kind of became our hashtag for the Freedom Tour and Warriors on Mission. But I envisioned to where, VFWs, they have a very limited budget for what they can and they can't do. But the great thing about it is, man, is like, and I'm a member of VFW 12206, which I think you are as well, right?
I am.
Yeah,
my
that's
VFW
right.
brother.
Yeah. The lovely Andrew Farrer, man, he goes out.
Yes,
he works hard to recruit people. So yeah, go Andrew. But the vision that I had was like, I would love to be able to bring a full scale production show to these VFWs, but unfortunately, they don't have the budget for it. So I got a buddy of mine down in Birmingham, Alabama, named Bob Waldrop, and he is the founder and the CEO of a nonprofit called Crosswinds Foundation. But one of the arms of this foundation is called Warriors on Mission. And Warriors on Mission, they manufacture. They have developed curriculums for veterans who are struggling with PTSD and moral injury, and they filmed documentaries and put them on their website to stream for free for veterans at warriorsonmission.org. But these curriculums currently, our push is the Warrior Hope curriculum that talks about healing, opportunity, peace, and empowerment. And I've been through the leadership training, and just the information that is passed in this curriculum is unreal. It doesn't just focus on the veteran, but it focuses on first responders and EMTs and all the first responders. But it also, if you've dealt with being in an earthquake, I mean, there's still PTSD from that. Or there's just PTSD goes so much deeper than just the veteran. I'm glad that the veterans can bring it to light, but that's the great thing about this curriculum. Well, now what they're doing is they're writing a curriculum called the Warrior Family, because he wants to take the perspective of the family who's having to deal with these warriors who are coming back with PTSD and moral injury. And they're actually filming a documentary right now called The Warrior Family. And cool enough, man, they asked me to write a song for it. So I'm actually in the process of writing a song for that. And last year, man, on this Freedom Tour, so to back up, I got the idea for the Freedom Tour from the VFW, which was 1970 in West Nashville. So I talked to Bob about it, and he's like, man, I love the concept. I love the idea. I was like, but what we need to do is, like, if we're going to go out and play these shows, there has to be a buy-in from the post, because we're giving them free shows. Of course, somebody's got to pay for it. So Warriors on Mission is paying for the production and all that stuff, and the performance fee and all that. But the buy-in from the VFW was the fact that they had to not nominate, but elect 3 to 4 people per post to go through the leadership training to where after they do the leadership training, they can reach out inside of their post and get the veterans to go through this leadership training to where it's actually vets helping vets. So a lot of people are very prideful, especially veterans, man, and they have their demons and they hide them and they close them off and box them off and don't want to talk to anybody. But if you are a member of the post and you trust your fellow brothers and you've got your fellow brother teaching this curriculum, they're more than likely going to listen to try to get the help that they need. And even if it's just a starting point for them to get more mental health through therapy or whatever through the VA, that's where it starts. So I can honestly say we did 12 shows this year throughout the state of Tennessee, and we tore it up, man. And we trained over 70 leaders throughout the state of Tennessee. And next year we're looking at trying to double that through the likes of going to Ohio, Arkansas, Oklahoma, down in Georgia, and some parts of Florida. So I'm really excited about where we're headed with it. And I just don't want to be another artist who plants a flag and collects a paycheck. I want to be able to actually leave resources behind. And I'm very fortunate that I've teamed up with a 501c3 to where I can do that.
And I've been to a couple of those. I mean, I've been to a lot of your shows, but I've been to a couple of those Freedom Tour shows.
That's right, the Freedom show, yeah.
People really respond well to it, and they're proud when they get announced that they're leaders. And the cool thing that I like about that Warrior curriculum is it does include families, because sometimes, veteran suffers, family suffers, but if a veteran is healed, then a family is healed. True. And it's only going to make that process easier and quicker if the family knows how to recognize signs and how they know how to help their veteran through that whole process.
Right. That's exactly right. And a lot of times the family gets left to the wayside, but like you said, I mean, the family's suffering just as much as the veteran is, but they're scared to say anything because they just don't want to pinpoint it, because you never know how bad or severe the case of PTSD or moral injury is. So you have to walk around eggshells just to make sure you don't hit certain triggers.
Well, I don't know how many times I can say I've lost count of how many times I've met people that said that they grew up with their dads that were Vietnam vets that had to deal with their PTSD, and they just they felt helpless because they didn't know how to help them. And, I grew up, my grandfather raised me. He was a POW for 3 years. And while he didn't have aggression or drinking or anything like that, he still had some really horrific stories that he would just randomly, when you're 6 years old, sitting there eating your cereal and you're hearing about concentration camp horror stories and stuff like that. Like, you don't know how to deal with that as a family. You don't know what to say. You don't know how to help them. And so that's why I love the Freedom Tour, for bringing the families for part of the healing process.
Right. And, like I say, I can't take all the credit. I mean, the Freedom Tour was kind of my concept, but the great thing about it is to actually combine it with Warriors on Mission and to actually deliver something to the veteran community. That's the piece to the puzzle. I mean, I go out here and play shows for veterans all day long, and I love doing it. I love my fellow vets, man, and I love doing what I do. But to actually be able to bring something tangible and leave something behind and know that I actually had a hand in that, trying to save a life. And, everybody says, stop 22, stop 22, stop 22. That's great. We all want to stop 22. But if I can stop one, if I can just stop one, I've done my job, and I can leave out knowing that I did something good. So, and I get people to come up to me all the time and talk about how much they appreciate the curriculum and how much it's helped them out. And I mean, there's nothing better feeling than that in the world. I mean, I love being on stage and I love performing. I love writing music, but that makes it all worthwhile. And I never understood that before I became an artist. I didn't understand listening to other artists talk about, man, it's just the feel good and the feedback from the audience. Well, now I get it. I get it because they actually truly appreciate what you do. So, I mean, it's really cool.
Yeah. And do you have access to the comment section? Can you type in that?
I don't know if I can or not.
If you can, type in the Warriors website.
Yeah, you can go to warriorsonmission.org. I've got it. Is my name showing up there anywhere? If you click on my name, it should be there out beside my Instagram.
Hold on. So warriorsonmission.org.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anybody that's interested, you can hit up that website, see if they're coming to your area this year. As you said, you have to have at least 2 people that are willing to train. And how long is the training? It's like a day?
Yeah, so the leadership training is usually done in about 4.5 to 5 hours. But then what they do is they take that and they teach the curriculum to the veterans, and that's generally it's a 10-hour course. But a lot of people, what they do is they do it once a week, to where it's an hour meeting once a week for 10 weeks. So they spread it out over 10 weeks, just where they can get the fellowship and the camaraderie once a week, rather than just trying to muscle through it. Vets getting together, hanging out, and learning how to help each other. So yeah,
and then you get a free concert by Chris. Is
yeah,
your
exactly.
dessert, is your
And the way we're
reward.
doing it next year, and we kind of caught on to this later on. We want to make sure that the curriculum and the leadership training is actually completed by the VFW and the post before we even bring the show. So that way they get the material, they go through the training, they start a center of hope, which is what these VFWs will be known as they start the curriculum and teaching. It'll be called a center of hope. So once that center of hope is started, then we'll bring the Freedom Tour to them as a thank you. And the show is at no charge to the VFW. Warriors on Mission fronts the whole cost for all of that. And it's really cool. So, and what we really encourage with these posts is, like, if we're bringing a show, put like a cornhole tournament or get vendors there, and all the money that you make off of these shows, man, with the production that we're bringing, keep it for your posts. So that way you can actually put it in your post money and use it for bigger events at a later date, to where, whether it's to keep the lights on or whatever, because as well as I do, membership fees are, we're trying to bring a sex appeal to the VFW, man, to where we get more younger vets to join. And we started doing that, because if we don't do that, I'm afraid that the VFW in the next 40 years is just going to be something of the past. And we got to bring in new blood.
I've talked about that with a couple of people, that the sex appeal needs to be put on the VFWs to get more of a younger generation, more of the 9/11 generation in, and more female vets. Because honestly, I never, even though I grew up around the VFW with my grandpa, I never thought about joining myself until Andrew asked me, and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll do it. So, a lot of people get a little upset that they can't join the VFW, but the criteria is that you do have to serve overseas. But if you don't have a VFW to go to, you can also go to American Legion, because Chris's band also plays at some American Legions as well. So that offers out to VFWs and American Legions.
And what I've come to find out is the American Legions up toward the Northeast is a lot more popular than the VFWs are in the South.
And that's true. That's true.
It's such a weird. It's weird. It's weird how it's like different parts of the U.S. how people flock to the Legion or flock to the VFW, but they're all veterans. And the great thing about the American Legions and the VFWs as well is, there's an auxiliary there to where people that are family members of veterans can actually get involved in it. So yeah, it's
that's true. Yeah. So I'm I feel lucky that I belong to a VFW in Murfreesboro, same one as Chris. In Tennessee, but I also belong to a really awesome American Legion, the Hollywood American Legion in California. My friend Tommy Anderson's director out there, and a veteran, and he got me into that. And one of the most beautiful American Legions that I've ever seen out there. But that was a really good time, and that's where Chris and I are very similar. We really love doing any kind of work that we can to help veterans. We mostly work in suicide prevention on that front, but we also love music, because that's how we met. We actually got paired up to write a song together for a veteran event.
Yeah, that's right.
That's actually where we met, and our friendship and the podcast and all this stuff. So yeah, we work well together.
We did the Hearts for Warriors event, and then after we debuted our song, I think I went on and did a live set. And I think, I don't know if that's the first time you ever heard If You Drink, but it was just still really cool to be approached by you and George Pardos, I guess, who's the founding member or the owner of VRS, about doing the podcast, man. And it's been really cool. But you need to brace yourself, man, because 2022 is going to be awesome. I'm really excited about it. We're in the studio cutting new music right now, and my inner circle and my management team, we've got some really cool things going on that I can't announce yet. But I can tell you, if this stuff comes to fruition, I want to do the exclusive debut and the announcement on the If You Drink podcast, man, because it means that much to me, because it's really cool.
Yay.
And this is going to be, if we do what I think and what I'm being told that we're going to be doing, it's going to be earth shattering. So I'm really excited about this year, and it's going to be huge. So
Well, thank you
really
for
cool.
letting us be the platform that you tell all this exciting news. And I
Yeah.
have a little bit of insider information that what's coming out is going to be, as you said, absolutely huge. And I got to be quite honest with you, I haven't heard this good of country music since we were kids. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's going to blow everybody's mind.
Yeah, it's a really cool song, and the lead off singles. It's what we're talking about right now. Is that song that I wrote with a buddy of mine named Jamie Adamson? It's called "Cowboy" like that. And what it does is when we was writing the song, I was talking to him, and I was like, man, you know what? Society is just not like this anymore. And everybody needs to put their cowboy hat and go back to where we come from. And as we was writing it, I'll give the hook of the song away, but I was sitting there, and we had all these lyrics and everything laid out, and we was sitting there shooting a game of pool and in his apartment complex, because we was taking a break because we got stuck. And we're sitting there stroking the pool stick and sinking balls, and that probably didn't sound right. I apologize, but but anyway. I looked over at Jamie. Is like, I got the hook, man. He said, "What?" I was like, "On the 8th day, God made a pair of boots and a Stetson hat for a cowboy like that." And we wrote it, and the rest of it.
God, I love that. It's so
and it's one thing to
such
do it
a hot hook.
acoustically. It's one thing to do it acoustically, but when we got it in the studio, this song took on a whole life of its own. Just the sound, and it's freaking amazing, and I cannot wait to share it with the world. I'm not one of those artists to where I get like overly excited about something, man. But when you hear it and you know it, you freaking know it. Every time I talk about the backstory of this song, and I don't normally listen to my own music, man. If you look at my playlist, I don't have any of my music in it. But this song has been on repeat in my playlist since I got it back. And it is I get cold chills every time I listen to it, because it's modern country meets contemporary with a twist to where everybody can relate to it. And it all starts with the song. And I really believe in this song. And I think it's gonna be great for my career. It's gonna be great for the veterans and what we're doing with the Freedom Tour. I just think it's just gonna be really huge. So I'm excited.
Because the first time I heard Jamie sing it, I told you, I was like, this needs to be on the rodeo circuit like yesterday.
Yeah.
That's how old school we're talking about here, folks. I can't wait for it to come out, because it's going to be amazing. You're working with some huge names in the business, which we can't talk about right now. But I was going to say next year. I guess we actually are in 2022. This year is just going to be absolutely phenomenal for you.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, man. And and that's generally what I do whenever I write a song. I'll send it out to a couple people and let them listen to it and try to get some feedback from it, man. And, just because I'm going to be biased anyway. I mean, I wrote the song, I cut the song. I'm going to be biased as hell, but I sent it out to, a couple different people, and, people loved it, and it's going to be great, man. So I'm really excited about it.
So, something I kind of wanted to ask you about is there's so many aspiring artists out there, and something kind of hit me the other day when I don't watch The Voice. I don't particularly like that show. Sorry, Blake. I don't. Something that kind of stood out to me is they said they had a couple people on there, and people couldn't believe that one artist didn't get as many votes as his other artist because she had a far superior voice. And one of somebody said, well, she did have a beautiful voice, but she wasn't a great entertainer. And I think, a lot of people are aspiring musicians. I love to sing. I'm going to say it. I think I have a great voice too, but I've never been an entertainer in addition to having a great voice. You have both. You have this amazing voice, plus you're a great entertainer. So if, anybody's out there listening, is there any advice you would give to, aspiring musicians?
Myself? Yeah. My advice is if you haven't lived it, don't write it. And if you're going to step on the stage, don't leave the stage unless you leave 100% of everything you've got out there, because those people that are in that audience, whether it's 200, and I've played for 20,000 people, they came to see a show. So if you play for 2 like you play for 20,000, your performance won't fall short. And the other piece of advice is I've got is don't ever forget where you came from and always be humble, because the way this town works in Nashville, you know, everybody knows everybody. I'll never forget when I first moved to town. I was downtown meeting a friend of mine. I was sitting at a bar. It was called Dan McGinnis at the time. It was at the top of a Demumbrian, and he came in the door, and I was sitting at the bar talking to somebody. Oddly enough, I was having a Guinness with at the bar, and the guy beside me was, and he talked with a South African accent. And he's like, "Hey man, what are you doing in town?" I was like, "Man, I'm an artist and a writer." I was like, he's like, "Oh really, really?" He's like, "I write songs too." He's like, "What are you doing tonight?" I was like, "Oh, I'm fixing to go down to the studio and hang out for a little bit and cut some songs." He's like, "Well, I got some songs. Can I send them to you? Can I send them to you?" I was like, "Well, man, I've pretty much got the songs for this project already picked out, but I appreciate it. Give me your information. I'd love to talk to you." About that time, I had somebody tap me on the back of the shoulder, and he's like, "Come over here for a second." I was like, "All right." He's like, "You know who that is, right?" I was like, "No, I just a guy who was trying to pitch me songs for my project." He's like, "Man, that's Gary Hannon." Like, Gary Hannon. He's like, "You know that song Tequila Makes Your Clothes Fall Off that went #1?" I was like, "Yeah."
Oh,
He's like, "He wrote that song. He's a good friend of
damn.
ours. He was just messing with you." I was like, "Y'all son of a bitches, man." Because I was new in town, man. I'd only been in town for like 2 years, man, and I just didn't know any better. But the thing
Yeah.
about it is like, you know, you can and another piece of advice is, man, be authentic. I mean, don't try to be something you're not, because people in this town can smell bullshit a mile away. So if you are who you are, you write what you know, and you perform like it's going to be your last show. Those are the 3 tools of success, in my opinion. And don't get caught up in the hype.
And something I learned from you from songwriting, and I've been writing songs for a long time. And you think that like your song is the greatest thing ever because you wrote it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're writing authentically and you're writing about what you know. But what I learned from you is like that's just the starting point. Because
Mm-hmm.
when I first pitched you this song, it completely changed in melody. It completely changed in words and completely changed in tempo. And then it turned out to be this amazing song. So don't get so stuck on like my words are like the Bible and they cannot change.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from you with our songwriting sessions actually.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I'll tell everybody, man, I'm not the #1 hit songwriter in town, but my forte is I'm a lyric snob. And what I mean by that is like, if you say something, I want it to be clever. If you write it down in its lyrics, I want it to be very clever. I want to be able to read between the lines, and I want it to be conversational, and I want to be able to actually go inside of it and see that picture painting that you're painting and see that line or that tree, and I want to be right there in front of it to where anybody can say, "You know what? I grabbed a baseball bat and swung it." But what if you said something like, "You remember that Louisville slugger in first base line?" It completely changes the whole dynamic. I just threw that out there, but it
That was
completely changes.
perfect. That was a perfect analogy.
It just completely changes the whole dynamic to where it pulls you inside the picture and you feel like you're inside of it. So that's the way I take songwriting, and even whenever I cut, because I am not such a narcissist writer to where I have to cut my own material. I know what I'm trying to say with every project because I try to do concept projects every time I cut new music. So this new project's going to be called Reflection, right? And this project's going to be a reflection of everything that's been going on in my life, to where every song is like a chapter of a book and it goes to the next level. So what I do is whenever I get done and I'm ready to cut a project, I look at the material that I've got. And if I'm trying to say something, I still take outside songs to see if anybody wrote it better than I could have wrote it myself and what I'm trying to say. And a
Yeah.
lot of times only 1 or 2 of my particular songs make the record, because I found this is the town of the songwriter. And I'm not going to be so ignorant to where I don't listen or look for the right material, because at the end of the day, I'm trying to get a message out to my audience because I know my demographic. And I want my audience to be able to relate in the best way that they can to what I'm trying to deliver, my painting, if you will. So that's the way I cut music, and that's what I do. And that's with me being a lyric snob, and I know what I'm trying to say, and I just want it to be different. I mean, he first moved to town, I think a writer told me, his name's Sam Tate. He's like, hey, write 100 songs and throw them in the trash, and then you'll be ready. And that's about what I did.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't really throw them in the trash. I kept them in a notebook because shit makes the best fertilizer. So I'll go back in that notebook from time to time, and I'll look back at some of the stuff that I wrote in the past, and I'll pull from it. I'm like, I know where I was at mentally whenever I wrote that, but now I've grown as a writer, so let me say that differently, and then I'll take that topic and I'll run with it.
So a lot of people don't understand there's like a whole team behind entertainer, you know, and not all of them do write their own music. Even you know, I was watching an interview with Blake Shelton about his wedding, the song he wrote for his new wife Gwen. He's like, I'm not a songwriter, so I had to call my buddy up in Nashville and be like, I need help. Like, no, for real, I need help. You know, and so I don't think songwriters get, you know, enough credit a lot of times, but they are the machines behind a lot of these huge hits by these entertainers. But you do have to understand that sometimes you know.
A lot of that the reason they don't write like they used to when they first come to town, man, because a demanding tour schedule when you're out 360 days a year and you're doing radio interviews and you're doing podcast or you're doing whatever, it takes away, not one, it stresses you. It doesn't stress you out, but it wears you down because you're up at like 3 o'clock in the morning doing radio interviews for drive time segments. And then you've got to go back and then you've got to load in. You got to do sound check. By the time you're done with sound check, you got to do an afternoon radio interview. Then you got to do meet and greets. And by the time you're done with meet and greets, you get 15, 20 minutes to chill on the bus and then you go to the stage, right? So and you do that 4 or 5 days a week. You get 2 or 3 days in Nashville to decompress, and then you're back out on the road again. It makes it hard to mentally think like a writer thinks because you've got so much other stuff to do. And even with me, thank God for COVID, man, because I don't mean that in a really, but the thing about COVID
we know what you mean.
Yeah, well, during the lockdown, man, I did a lot of writing. I did a lot of self-reflection, and I learned a lot of stuff to where it helped me grow even more as a writer. So, you know, and I think a lot of artists probably did that during that time frame as well. But yeah, that's why a lot of them don't write, Blake included, because once you get your deal and you hit that friggin' tour schedule, I mean, it's wide open.
Yeah, they're busy. Yeah. They requires a lot of people to put those shows on. There's so many things going on. So yeah, we got Brian Ganzers, my buddy from Knoxville, was on the Nashville hike with him. He says, hearing you and your guests talk about what you're doing to prevent veteran suicide for me is great. The network of veteran supporters you've got is awesome. Thanks. You are right. The network of veteran supporters I have is awesome, including you, Brian. You're out at many of the hikes and support the Irreverent Warrior Foundation. And so I'm very blessed and fortunate that I can hang out and do events with all these guys, including Chris. And so, you know, I just want to let everybody know stuff that Chris has got going on that we for sure can talk about right now is that Warriors on Mission Freedom Tour. If you're at a VFW or American Legion in the state of Tennessee or surrounding states, hit them up and see if they're going to be into your state. And maybe you guys can get a couple people trained to get a center set up for you guys and have Chris come out and do a show. And also that shirt. I got to talk about that shirt.
Yeah. If you guys love American-made shirts, man, this is my apparel line. I had to wear it tonight. You can go to the letter R, the letter U, AmericanMade.com, and you can order these shirts. I've got T-shirts, and it's all American-made T-shirt. So, I love this shirt. It's my clothing line.
I have that baseball tee, and it's one of my favorite shirts because it is the softest material I've ever had in T-shirt, ever. And my 17-year-old, when she saw it, she was like, I want one of those. So I got her one for her 17th birthday. So they're cool. They're hip with the young kids too. So they're great T-shirts, have a great slogan on there. I mean, yeah, Patriots right here for sure.
I hate to do this, but it's ruamericanmade.com.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Missed that.
But yeah, it's they're great T-shirts, man. And you know, even outside of that, the Warriors on Mission, we've got Freedom Tour T-shirts on warriorsonmission.org, and I give a portion of my proceeds back to that nonprofit. And the Freedom Tour, anything that's bought on that goes the 100% of the proceeds goes back to Warriors on Mission. I'd love to donate all mine, but I mean, I actually have to pay for the shirts, so I mean, I got to cover my cost anyway. But yeah, they're great. You can order them online, and I mean, the guys who do it, I mean, it's they do a great job for my merch, and I've used them for quite a while. So yeah, it's really cool, man. 22 shaping up to be pretty fantastic, so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, sounds like it. We both got some really cool stuff going on, but we're getting to the end of the hour, folks, and I know Chris is a very, very important, very busy man. So we're going to let him get back to making some music. But Chris, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. We're really excited to hear what you got going on in 2022 with this new project, Reflection. I can't wait to hear more music coming out. I'm really excited for it. As a girl from Wyoming, if I had my cowboy hat on, I would tip my cowboy hat to you, sir, because you're bringing back the old school country music that I grew up on, that I love and that I miss, and reminds me of my family. So thank you for coming on again tonight. We will be on next week. And while I do not have a guest, I do have someone coming on next week that is old school VRS, Trag. If anybody remembers Trag, he's coming on to hang out. He hasn't been on here for a while. He used to have some pretty crazy shows here on VRS. He hit me up last week. I was like, come on the show and hang out. So Trag will be with me next week, and I hope you guys have a great week, and I hope you guys are sticking to your resolutions, because I am. So until next week, if you drink,
Semper Fi, guys. Good to see you.
Drinking with us here at VRS. Have a great night.